Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of the Basement Lounge VIP Table, where we are sitting down with a VIP guest. And this guest is a broadcaster and news anchor here in Dayton, Ohio. And he is one of the evening co-anchors for Dayton 24/7 Now News. He is Adam Aaro. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me. The fact that you call me VIP is such a compliment.
I know, right?
I wish my family called me that.
You know, what's great is the chair you're sitting in used to be part of the old, before you were there, the old morning show set that we had.
Oh, did you just get it? Nice.
These are like, there's a whole bunch of morning show set down in the basement. And when I was moving and I needed some furniture, I called Amy and I was like, can I just take it? And she was like, that's fine. We don't care.
If you can move it, get it out of here.
She was like, it's not even on our inventory anymore. If you need it, just take it.
Oh, nice. Well, these are very comfortable. I could see why they were.
Oh yeah. I love them. When we had Elise Coulter on 2 years, well, I guess it would have been, it was right before she had the baby. She was like, these chairs feel familiar.
Well, she's like the elder statesman at the station now, as far as
I know, which is crazy. When I started, she was just an MMJ.
Yeah. And
then she was anchoring on the weekends, and then one thing led to another, and now she's been there longer than I have.
I mean, I think I'm the second longest tenured on-air person there.
I'm gonna say yes because only reason I say no that's because you came in right after I got hired.
Oh, really? In 16?
You got hired like 3-4 months after I got hired right at the end of 2015.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense then.
Because you came in, you replaced Jack, and were there when Deb was still there.
Yep.
God, I think about this sometimes because a lot of the guys in Master have been there like 10, 15 years, and it's the cycle of people who have. In just the last 5 years alone.
We used to call it the recycling period, like because you have reporters and photographers will kind of cycle through more frequently than anchors do, or weather folks. But yeah, I mean, since I've been there in the last 5 years, we've had a lot. The nice thing is we have a lot of people there now that I think are sticking around for a while. So that's a good thing because people pay attention to that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, because so like Bryn's been here for a couple of years now. We just lost Danielle and Molly who had been there for a bit, but I'm trying to remember who all we've got now.
Well, you think about just the morning people, the evening people.
The problem is I don't know the morning crew that well because I work in the evenings.
Well, Elise and Nathan. I mean, they're here for a while.
Yeah.
Myself and Megan have both been here 5+ years. Natalie is here for a while. I mean, so you look at it and it's a good group. I think that'll stay there for a while, which I think is important because you got to have that trust in one another to do your job. So.
I think the whole building's trying to get back to that, because I know when you guys were going through the rotating door, we were too. I mean, there was a point where there was like 2 people per shift, and we were just kind of like, "Okay, so we're just not taking time off. It's fine. It is what it is."
Yeah.
But that's kind of the nature of the business too.
It really is.
So the nature of the business that you got into, how long have you been doing like news and broadcasting and journalism?
Well, it's weird because, Megan's the same way. My co-anchor, Megan O'Rourke, like we didn't study broadcast journalism in college.
Okay.
We took like a mass comm, and I primarily did public relations. That was my focus, political science and public relations. So I actually met my wife senior year in a public relations class, so it worked out. But I didn't realize I wanted to do TV until summer before senior year, which is inconvenient if you want to take classes, of course.
Right.
Because it's really expensive, right?
Yeah.
So I got an internship at the CBS affiliate in Minneapolis. We're originally from Minnesota, and Minnesota. Yeah. I don't have as thick of an accent as my wife and her family, but anyways, it does come back when I go visit. But
okay.
But yeah, so I did an internship, and then I did like the school newspaper. I basically did everything possible I could to try to get that experience wrapped up in like 7 months, And then once I got out of my internship and I tried to put together like a reel together, which is basically a bunch of stand-ups of me, with a microphone talking about this or that. Then I sent it out, VHS tapes, because this was 2004, to about 13 to 15 different markets. And thankfully, the one in Rochester, Minnesota, which was only about 90 minutes from my folks' house, wanted me to come in as an overnight producer / newsroom reporter, which is basically recycling what somebody did the night before and, just basically trying to learn how to do things. Because I didn't know anything about broadcast journalism. I mean, I knew like a very minuscule amount from that internship, but it was really like a learning as you do it type thing. but having the motivation to learn how to do it helped to carry me through. And then it's just been, progression since then. This is my 5th TV market.
That's wow.
Yeah, my wife had no idea what she was getting into. I did warn her. In fairness, I said I've heard from the older folks in the business, like you move around a little bit, but
it's like you move in like a military family.
Well, people give me that. They're like, "Are you in the military?" I'm like, "No, I wish that was that was."
So you never were.
No, me no.
Because you do. I will say I've always wondered because you do. I think it's the haircut, and also I think it's just the way you carry yourself with like a deliberate confidence that it comes across as like something from that you would get like being in the military.
No, I did sports. I mean, in hindsight, I wish I would have paid more attention to school. I did pay attention to school, but it wasn't to the extent that I did with sports. Like when I was growing up, I wanted to be a professional athlete. So like most of my time was spent doing some kind of
sport?
Football and track.
Okay.
So I played running back in high school, and I did sprinting and track and played baseball and all that stuff. So I really wanted to do that. But then once I got old enough to realize that that's a pipe dream, then you start to do other things. But I mean, sports were great in the sense that it gives you that sense of teamwork and the hard work and the those other values that you can gain from doing it. And so I don't know, maybe that might have contributed to it. I think my folks were good too about trying to be as polite and.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I told my parents I want to be a professional stand-up comedian, they were like, "Have a backup plan."
You always got to have a backup. You got to have a backup of a backup plan. Is what you got to do. Yeah.
I think I'm on plan number 4 at this point. I went to school. I got the mass comm degree, but it was always one of those like, "I'll get the degree, but I'm never going to use it." And yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, honestly, Mike, like I never thought I was going to do TV. Like if you would have asked me freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, what are you going to be doing? I thought. PR, I thought at one point I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a lawyer. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I wasn't one of those kids who was like, had the fake TV and like the set, at my house.
Oh,
like,
really?
Doing like reports or doing like the school report.
I
you know what I mean?
TV.
Did you? See, I never did that.
I would do like book reports or stuff in middle school, and I would always build like a fake news set and do it like a.
Oh, see, you were perfect then. I wish I had that kind of idea that I wanted to do that.
We did like, I don't know if you remember the book Timothy of the K, where it's the kid who gets lost on the island with the guy.
No, I don't remember.
And we did the book report as reporting it after he'd been found on the island, and we were the news team that
get out of here.
Yeah,
I like that. See, I wish I had that kind of thing because I feel like I kind of fell into it in some ways, but a lot of it was like, what are you strong at? I always felt like I was stronger at communication, speaking in most people don't like speaking in front of people, right?
No, it's like what's like the number 1 fear.
It's scary as heck, right?
Number 2 is death.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Number 3 is taxes. No, it's no, it is. It's terrible. So that was always something I enjoyed, and you got to enjoy people, right? You have to enjoy going out and meeting complete strangers and trying to develop relationships with them. I mean, that's a big aspect of doing this job. So I mean, it all kind of fit together and. I'm glad I did it. It's a heck of an experience, though. I mean, I've lived in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Oregon, and then we went to Columbus, and now here. Mm-hmm. So hopefully here is a long time because once you get to a certain age, you're like, I don't want to move anymore.
Plus, I love Dayton. So
yeah, I mean, it's great. Well, we never expected. I mean, we hadn't really been to Ohio before we came to Columbus 9 years ago now, but we've absolutely loved it.
It's a state it just sticks with you somehow. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's connected to everything.
That's true.
And I don't know if it's just the position it is geographically, but I feel like it's connected to everybody.
We do have 2 major highways that intersect right here in Dayton.
Yeah,
75 and 70. Mm-hmm. Because I'm from like North Canton originally, and then like we moved down south, and I went to college down there and all that. But like, I don't know. I always just found myself referring back to life. I mean, God, I can't even tell you people down south I met who were from Ohio, like going to college orientation. I was like, yeah. My family's from Ohio. I was like, oh God, mine too. And it's like, does everybody just are we that halfway point between here and Florida, where it's like you leave here and then you go to South Carolina, then eventually you go to Florida to retire.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. Something just always seems to pull people back here once you get here.
Well, it's a great location too, because you're really within traveling distance to so many different great places, and we're only about 13, 14 hours from Minnesota, so we can get in the car and drive up and see our folks.
That's
and stuff
a day
like
trip.
that. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. it's a long day, but especially when the kids were younger. But
and I've driven to South Carolina and back in a weekend just to go visit friends or whatever, or go down for a wedding or something. You're right. It is a great thing. And see, I'm a big live music fan. So like when I lived down south, there were no concerts.
Oh, really?
Like the music industry just thinks the Southeast sucks, I guess, because like nobody ever came through there. And then I moved up here and it was like, oh my God, I have to pick which ones I'm not going to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the Hall of Fame. I still have to get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's one of the
I've
places
never been.
Really?
I've been to the.
You're from Canada.
I know, and I hate football, but I've been to the Football Hall of Fame about a dozen times. Because when you go to school in North Canton, that's every year's end of year field trip. Is you go to see the archive and see all the rings, and never been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Man, well, you got to get a day trip. Then,
I know. I have been to, like, if you ever go to the Great Lakes Science Center in Cleveland, that's always, especially because you got younger kids. That's a lot of fun. I love Cleveland. That's the one place I've just never, and it's one of those. It's like I can't believe I've never been there.
Well, I'll tell you another cool thing about this business. If people at home are looking at getting into it, is that you really get to know a community better than I think you might otherwise. And it's not like a bragging thing. It's more just you're kind of forced into it in a sense, because you got to get to know the area. And like I know more about Bend, Oregon, Rochester, Minnesota, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, and now Dayton than I do about my own hometown. Like when I look back to Stillwater, Minnesota, I don't know nearly as much about there that I do about those other places I've lived, because you move around so much.
And yeah, especially when it's your job 40 hours a week to learn about, something happens on a street in Greenville. Okay, well now I got to learn about what's going on there in Greenville because it might be pertinent to what you're talking about. Or
well, if you're covering a story, I mean, for instance, like the reporters we have now, I mean, they basically become experts on, viral type of situations.
Oh, no.
I mean, they know all about vaccines. They know all about the RNA and the all the other stuff that goes along with it. Like you have to basically force yourself to become an expert in something as much as you can in like the span of 3 or 4 hours.
Well, yeah, because you figure for a minute and a half news package, they're probably spending hours talking to these people and learning about it.
And you have to chop it down. I mean, you have to cut it down. You have to figure it out. But the more you talk to people, the more you realize as you're listening to them, you're like, okay, that's what I'm going to take from it. That's there. And, then you're going to fill in the rest of it with just, your voice track. But, something that people might not realize at home is there's this perception with, news in general that you make a fortune doing it, which is totally not true. I mean, it's kind of like I equate it to, I'll give you, for instance, back in 2004, when I graduated, I got a job offer out in Butte, Montana, and the starting salary was $15,000 a year, which, it's money, but when you're single, living alone, I mean, you're not surviving, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically a battle of attrition where you have to continually move up the ladder until you get to those higher positions to make a little bit more money. There is money in the business, but you have to really love what you're doing, because you have to get through a lot, accrue some debt, and really get at right. Some, yeah, right. You really have to get after it. You have to love what you do in order to stay with it. It's tough.
And that's why you see so many move around so much.
Yeah.
You get to a point in a market where there's really nowhere else to go upwards. So we got to go find somewhere else where there is.
And that was what happened in Columbus. I was anchoring the weekends and filling in, but we had a great main anchor who's still there, Bob Kendrick, and he wasn't going anywhere. So, I had to kind of look around, and I was honest with my boss, and I said, look, I love it here. I love everything about the city and the newsroom itself, but I want to, push myself and try something different. And thankfully, in the fall of 15, this job opened up.
Yeah.
So I was able to come out here. But
talk about guys who had been around for a while. You're taking over for Jack, who had been in this business. You talk about doing what you love and doing for a long time. Jack had been in this business for decades. I mean, it's crazy to even think about. I remember thinking when I worked at Walmart, there were people who would celebrate like 30-year anniversaries, and I'm like, sure, okay, All right, but I think in any job, I mean, we've got a guy in master control who's this year's going to be his 20th year working for the company. I'm like, I can't even. But I've also never had a job that's lasted longer than 2 years. So.
Well, that's the other issue. I mean, this is the longest I've ever been at a TV station. I mean, I'm on year 5 now, and I mean, up to this point, it was like 3.5 years. You kind of get used to that nomad lifestyle, which, as you get older, it's a lot more difficult. When you have kids that are in school, it's a lot more difficult. So. It's a challenge, but it's well worth it if you're willing to work at it.
So outside of the news, here living in Dayton now for 5 years, like what's a day off like? I mean,
a day off. Yeah. I mean, it's basically you're hanging out with your kids. So I have 3 kids. I have 3 girls, 9, 7, and 5 now.
Woof.
Almost 10.
3 girls.
3 girls, yeah. I mean, the constant joke is wait till they're teenagers. Right? My 10-year-old already feels like she's a teenager with how she sometimes will talk to us, but. We're very fortunate because they're all very, very sweet, and they get along with each other for the most part. They have their fights here and there, but for the most part, it's just hanging out with them, and the weekends go by really, really fast. We try to explore as much as possible, but with the pandemic, there's not as much that you can do.
Are they super active kids? Like, do they love?
Oh yeah. I mean, they do tennis. They've done softball. We've tried to get them involved in like everything they can just to try it. And if they don't like it, that's fine. We'll, get them involved in something else.
You guys like camping?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I don't personally.
Okay.
Here's the thing about camping. So like when we lived in Oregon, it was fun because, you're in the mountains, whatever. You'd go for like a night. I'm good for like a night, but after that, I'm kind of a wimp. Like I want to shower and I don't want to be smelling like campfire for like 5 days straight,
Okay. I was gonna say I love camping. I was like, if you need something to do, just take them camping.
Yeah, just dump them off somewhere and see if they can survive.
Well, our engineer, he's been at the company for like 15 years, and his daughter who's 13, but he's a big outdoorsy guy.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, wow, like Friday, he was telling me it's gonna be a nice weekend. We're just gonna go camping. Like he just goes. Like he knows where all the spots are in Ohio, and he'll just load up the truck and just go.
Well, and it's fun. Look, and I don't mean to badmouth camping. It's fun. It's just like
it's
I said,
not for everybody.
After a night, like I kind of want to have electricity again. I mean, I'm spoiled. I guess you could put it that way. I'm just not that. I love hiking. I love all that stuff, but
There's a great hiking trail in Germantown.
Oh yeah, which one?
Germantown. It's a part of the Metro Park system, and it's got 3 trails that are like 3 miles, 8 miles, and like 12 miles. I do the 3, and even that's.
I figured you were doing the 12.
No, no, God, and especially not right now. But it's a gorgeous, because Germantown's just a nice little like slice of old town Americana as it is, and it's a gorgeous hiking trail. But I go camping until COVID every summer in the mountains in Pennsylvania for a week, but.
Well, and it's hard, it's hard too, like from a social perspective, right? Because we're not going out, we're not, we're trying to be responsible and not be like partying or whatever. So honestly, since the pandemic started, I've been playing a lot of Warzone, a lot of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a big product of that is all my buddies that are in, Minnesota and Louisiana, I'll get to the Louisiana aspect, how I'm connected there, but, you get on the headset and it's not like we're good at the game. It's just like, you're going to talk smack and like just have fun and play, and
you're not talking in NATO phonetic and
God, no, we're terrible.
Charlie Tango Alpha.
Yeah. Or like there's some bogeys over there. No, it's fun. It's like a nice way to like shoot the whatever and just have fun, and so I do that, and then fantasy football. I'm total nerd ball with that.
I can't. I like gambling.
I never make
much.
fun of Magic the Gathering kids because I'm like, I play fantasy football. I mean, what's the difference,
Because we make fun of you guys for that.
That's fair.
Because we for years we get so much crap like, oh, you're nerds, you cosplay. It's like, okay, you play fantasy football and wear cheese hats when you go to football games.
Oh, don't. Hey, listen, as a Vikings fan, I will never wear a cheese hat. All right. I did have to work in Green Bay for a couple of years, which is tough. Yeah. I had to like kind of be like a secret agent, like, oh yeah, I love Green Bay. I love Brett Favre. He's great.
Well, I'm living in Dayton, but I'm an Indians fan, so
that's fine. I mean, I feel like Dayton is like most people are Cincinnati based, but I feel like there's plenty of Cleveland stuff.
I'll go to a Reds game. We get the tickets every once in a while from work, and I love going to the Dragons games. And I'm not a big sports guy, but God, do I love baseball.
There's something about being outdoors too. I mean, the Dayton Dragons do a really good job putting it on. So family friendly. So just
so
like
much fun.
it's gorgeous. Yeah, I missed that. Like last year was tough not having it.
They got to work on their t-shirt cannon skills though.
Yeah, they're pretty weak.
The last game I was at, I was kind of like, and that one's on the roof, and that one's on the roof, and that one's on the roof. Nobody's getting t-shirts today, kids.
Like, sorry, we had a weak crop of interns. They couldn't shoot it very well. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like with the fantasy football stuff, if you really want to see how nerdy I am, I'm in 6 leagues right now.
Wow.
Which is hard. Which is hard to to differentiate because you're kind of going against your own guys every week because of whatever. And like I do dynasty stuff, which is like year round. Anyways, it's totally nerdy. So bottom line is I will never make fun of people who do cosplay or do any of that stuff because I'm like I have pretend football players that I care about. So. I mean, they're real people, of course, but
right.
Yeah.
I try the guys in Master used to run fantasy like little fantasy leagues and stuff. Nothing like too intricate, but. And they try to get me in. It was I like gambling too much, so
oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's probably just for the best that I don't.
Well, I mean, it is kind of. I mean, it is essentially like gambling to a degree. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice way to have like some competitive stuff, and trading is fun. I'm sure you trade the Magic cards, so
sure,
yeah.
I'm sure you trade the Magic cards.
Yeah, I'm sure you do that. You trade your players, you trade that. No, it's it's fun. I mean, it's definitely the nerdy thing. So I'm to the point now where I don't really care. I mean, you can call me a nerd; it really doesn't matter.
Everybody's a nerd in some way, shape, or form.
Everyone is.
Everyone's got something they're nerdy about.
And if they deny it, they're hiding something major.
If they're denying it, you probably don't want to know what it is they're nerdy about.
That's probably a good point. That's a good point.
It's like the people who are kind of like, oh, the government's watching me through my webcam. Well, if you're worried about if they're watching me, they're seeing me doing right now. They see me doing this.
Yeah. How exciting.
If you're worried, I don't want to know what you're doing. It's
like watching people through it's so novel now, but yeah.
So in the last couple of years, as a member of the media, things in from the public perspective have gotten testy. We hear people a lot of times, talk about the media, and I'm putting the media in quotes because the way I hear people talk about it, I picture the war room from Dr. Strangelove.
See, I think of like Borders books. You have all like the media section. You got the CDs and the movies and.
Well, that's what the media actually is.
That's what I always thought it was growing up. I never thought it was.
They talk about they talk about the media and the press like everyone sits around a giant table. Like how can we manipulate?
Right. How can we bias things? Yeah.
Like there was a political cartoon from when I was in college. I still remember to this day. It's like. Everyone thinks that the president just does this, and it's him with 2 giant levers, and it's one with gas, and it's gas prices, and it's one with like wages, and it's whether he wants them to go up or down. And it's like it's not really how it works.
No, it's not like that in media either. And I hate using the term media, to be honest with you, because I just it's such a broad brush. I mean, there's so much more specificity I think that's needed for what you do. Like. We're broadcast journalists. Like what I do is different than a print journalist, and it's different than a blogger. It's different from, a vlogger. I mean, it's also different as far as the way that you approach it. Now, there's still some values. There's still obviously the values of fair and balanced and all of those sort of things that you have with those types of aspects, but they're all so different. Then you have local, you have national, you have international, you have cable news, you have all these different entities that broadcast it. And I feel like people will see it and then they paint you with that wide brush, or because of your affiliation with CBS, Fox, ABC, or whatever, they equate you with, you must feel this way, or you feel that way, or this is whatever. But like you were saying, there is no table in the back of the newsroom where we're all like scheming to do that. We don't make enough money. We don't have enough time. And none of us are in this because we want to try to manipulate people. It's because we enjoy, holding people accountable, giving people a voice. I mean, most, if not all, media organizations are highly involved with nonprofits and trying to, and we all live in the community too. And I think people sometimes can forget that with how quickly we want to throw out opinions on social media.
It goes to like the whole idea of like the anonymity of the internet too. It's like they see you on TV. It's like they see you as a talking head on TV, not as Adam, the guy who lives in Dayton with his wife and 3 kids, and
right, and they go to local schools and pay taxes and that sort of thing. And I get it. I mean, it's an easy way to do it. In my opinion, it's a lazy way to do it, but it's an easy way to do it. And we've all been guilty of it, right? Like when we look at actors or actresses or whoever, politicians. I mean, we kind of have this like idea that they're not people. They're on not a pedestal, but they're, they don't have feelings. And the social media, unfortunately, has exacerbated all of it, where it's good to have a voice, but it's also bad in the sense that there's so much negativity that gets thrown out. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of positivity too. I mean, there's so much good with the social media aspect. And I think there's definitely a thirst for, good stuff, positive stuff that's out there as well. But
how do you feel that, like, with kind of the, we've heard terms like fake news thrown around and all the time from everyone, and as somebody who works in that field, like how do you feel like that's affected you in any way, just on a professional or personal level?
I don't think it's affected me as far as like how I do my job. I think it's more of a, when I hear someone saying fake news, I don't think it's a very it's not a very eloquent way of saying what you're reporting doesn't fit what I believe. And that's what I feel like when people throw out fake news, often it's, well, you're attacking the person that I support, or you're attacking this or this belief system that I hold on to. I think one of the issues we have now is that there's so many different outlets that people sometimes get in an echo chamber where they're only hearing what fits what they believe is the worldview. And so for me personally, like when I hear it only looks stupid to that person, in my opinion. I mean, I think in my opinion, I think it's a lazy way of disagreeing with somebody. I think it's vitally important, though. I will say that when viewers are able to say, hey, this is inaccurate and here's why. You know what I mean? Because we're human. We make mistakes all the time, just like anybody in a job makes a mistake. And so when we make a mistake, I love it when people are constructive with their criticism, saying, hey, you missed this, or you need to have this, or you should explore this or do that. Not just like, that's fake. It's not real.
Well, you see that a lot. Like whenever, even in things like people talking about music or movies, when they'll say, oh, that movie sucks. That band sucks.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Give me a reason. Yeah. Like
if you just don't like it, that's fine. Like I personally, not a Nirvana fan.
Sure.
It's a taste issue. I don't like peas. doesn't jive with the taste buds. And so so when you say something is, when you want someone to say something is wrong, or you don't agree with something, why?
Right.
If you can't give me a reason why, I'm less likely to, me personally, I'm less likely to care.
Well, and I mean, the way I was raised, and I'm sure you too, is it's like, if you're going to be respectful and give me an opinion that is well thought and you feel very strongly about, I'm going to listen to you. And there's been times where I've heard that and I've had to readjust and say, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying there. Let me look at that. I'm totally open to new ideas and that sort of stuff. But when you come at somebody so aggressively, like you're throwing a nuke at somebody rather than like giving them a nice shove, like, hey, look at this. Then I have a problem, because you're kind of shutting it down before you even get started with the conversation. So, yeah. But to answer your question about the fake news stuff, like I kind of laugh at it now. But again, if someone wants to be constructive and tell me, I love hearing that. Do you often find yourself, and I know when you're in a public position, sometimes it's hard to, as my old poli-sci teacher said, weed through the crap of, because for every one, intelligent comment or tweet, there's, 10 not so much. Sure.
Do you find yourself kind of ignoring, how much do you really pay attention to like the social media?
Never read the comments.
Never read the
I'll tell you,
it's a good rule.
I mean, especially when it comes to, like on my personal page, I try to keep it very positive, like on my work page. Like I try to, bring that stuff out, and 99% of the comments I get there fit into that mold of, supportive or kind or that sort of thing. Now, granted, I don't post political stuff on my page or even put that kind of stuff out there where it could get into that sort of thing. But But yeah, I mean, you see some comments and you know, part of me when I read them now as I've gotten older is I wonder what's going on in that person's life where they felt it was necessary to attack someone else or say something mean or do something like that. Because I personally can't imagine myself getting onto social media and throwing out some kind of comment like that and then just like logging off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I get to the point now where I'm kind of analyzing and like, well, what's going on with that? Like, why are they, you know, doing that? But I don't usually respond to a lot of that stuff because you'll never win.
Right.
You'll never win those conversations. I had a person send me a message. This was a couple years ago through my work page where they were basically calling me an idiot because of my grammar, because of something that was written for a promotion that we did. And they came out, it was like the Nuke, you know, like they came out and were like really like hoity-toity about it. And she was right. I mean, the way that it was worded was incorrect. And if that's what all she would have said, that would have been fine. But I made the mistake of saying, you're right, words matter. And, you know, that was really, you know, disrespectful. And, you know, I wish you would have just said this like this. And she's like, oh, I wasn't being disrespectful. And, you know, so then you can't win, right?
Yeah.
So I've just learned that you just don't respond. And most of the time people just move on.
Because they want the response.
They do. And I think, honestly, Mike, the vast majority of people in the country, in the world, they just want to be respected, I feel like. And so when people throw out opinions like that, they want to be listened to. They want to have, you know, some people are just trolling and they want to get some kind of like excited reaction, you know, out of somebody. But, you know, I've always gone by the sense of just try to be as respectful as possible and, you know, listen. And, you know, most of the time you can, you know, put out the flames that way. But yeah, don't read the comments.
Never.
Don't read the comments.
If you're in any kind of, I've had to learn whether it's podcasting or if you're a public figure of any kind, never ever read your, just.
Yeah, it can get nasty, unfortunately, and there's no cure for it, right? Because you don't want to stifle people to be able to comment on things, but
something a guy, Christian Harloff, he's a comedian and film critic. Well, something he said really I think rings true, which is like the great thing about the internet is that everyone has a voice. The bad thing about the internet is that everyone has a voice. So the best people in the world are able to share their thoughts, but so are the worst people.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and everyone in between.
I mean, when I started, there was no social media. Like when I started in 2004,
those were great days.
They were in a lot of ways, although you get a lot of phone calls, right? So you have to kind of, but it's definitely changed the way, you know, how things operate. But it's still, when you get down to it, our business is you get all sides, you get it all done, and you're under deadline. So sometimes you have to say, well, we reached out to this person, we haven't heard back. Immediately once we do, we can update you and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a stressful business, but it's more rewarding than stressful. I'd have gotten out of it a long time ago if otherwise.
It's a weird, it's you know, thinking back to just the events of the last year.
2 years, really.
It's a weird world we live in where I cannot think of a time. I never thought in my life I would ever hear like governmental proceedings referencing back to such and such officials' tweets.
Yeah,
I've never heard a word like tweet used so much in official. It's just, but that's how large, that's how big and part of life Twitter has become now.
Well, and I think one of the dangers with that, you know, besides the fact that, you know, you can say whatever you want, is you lessen the need for people to question you, right? If you're just throwing out statements or tweets or that sort of thing, you don't have those people that are there to like say, well, wait, give me some context on this. Like, where did this go? Or, you know, and I think that's the real problem is if public officials are not allowing themselves to be questioned or be available, because at the end of the day, the public officials work for the public, right? Now, in fairness, we do too. And so I'm not trying to be hypocritical here, but you know, people who are in charge of our government or our city or whatever, they should always make every effort, in my opinion, to be available for questions. Because if you can't answer questions, then, you know, like, you know, reasonable questions, not like jerkish stuff, but there's plenty of that as well.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
It's been, you know, it has been an interesting few years, from a media perspective, living in Dayton. When you go back to because the within the span of a week, we had, the KKK rally,
yeah,
and then the tornadoes, which I was on the desk for. That was I tell the story. I was in the middle of, like, one of our guys was still kind of in training that night, and it was his first time working through a summer with us, and I was kind of like,
oh boy.
I was explaining, like, like how the weather alert system in master control works, and I was like, although I got to be honest, it kind of feels like we're a little overdue for a tornado.
Oh, you put that in the air, huh?
I put that on the oven.
Oh boy.
And then, of course, it was Monday night, which I usually don't work Monday nights anyway, and then so of course, like, I'm watching as we're covering the show that was on, and if you don't know the story, we covered The Bachelor, and our meteorologist at the time went viral because of some of the comments he made.
Yeah.
That was a great, but I was also in the control room that night going, like, sometimes I wish these guys would, because we were getting all the viewer calls and stuff, and so I was like, sometimes I wish these guys would just tell the people at home to
be quiet,
go fly a kite or something like that, and then he kind of does, and I was like, okay, I got to stop talking because I keep putting stuff out in the universe and it keeps happening. But we had that happen, and then then of course the Oregon district shooting. I literally driven out to Pennsylvania for my camping trip the night that it happened.
Oh, really?
So I woke up at 6 a.m. the next morning to 1 billion voicemails and text messages from people who knew I lived in Dayton, who were just, like, making sure I was okay because they didn't know I had gone camping.
We were in Gatlinburg.
Oh, really?
My family and I were in Gatlinburg. Yeah, we. So you talk about the year that was. I mean, I think everybody at the station and all the local media, really in general, were very much like on edge after the tornadoes because, it was such an overwhelming amount of coverage and impact in the community and on people's lives, and like you're just emotionally shot. And then, so you're kind of always on edge after that. And I remember I stayed up late that night at our cabin in Gatlinburg, and I said, well, I'm going to watch ESPN because we don't have cable. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just watch some ESPN. And then we started getting emails to our station email that were like, they're called alert pages. They're basically like from dispatch saying, hey, there's a crash with a rollover or something like that. But these ones were mass shooting, Oregon district, or something to that degree. And I thought, okay, this must be a test. This can't be real. Right. And then you start looking on social media and you're looking for anything, and there was nothing at first. And then it started coming in. And I remember worrying because we don't have a highly staffed newsroom on Saturday nights like that, especially after midnight.
Yeah. Everybody goes home.
Everybody goes home. So anyways, long story short, I mean, obviously it was confirmed, and I ended up staying awake till about 6:30 or 7 the next morning, straight, just trying to do what I could. And I felt like I should have been there, like you just have that kind of feeling of craziness. And, it was 2019 was terrible in a lot of ways, and I tell people this when they ask. I said, they're like, gosh, 2019 must have been so hard. And it was far harder for those impacted by the tornadoes themselves and for, those impacted by the shooting, police, first responders. I can't even imagine trying to process all that stuff. Now, all that being said, I try to look at look for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers used to say. And there was so much good that rose up from all of that negativity. I mean, I still remember with those tornadoes, and I did a follow-up story with them. These two guys starting a grill, and it basically became a triage where they had all this food and clothes and stuff for people in the middle of Northridge. And, all the people that helped, after the shooting, and all the love that was shown to Dayton police after Officer Del Rio was killed. And there was so much good and love that rose up from all of that terrible negativity. And it was really, it was a lot. And I think if you ask anybody within, speaking just from a media perspective, and I know our emotional weight doesn't compare to first responders or any of that stuff, or those that were impacted by those events. But I mean, we were, it was tough. I mean, there'd be days where you just find yourself just start to cry, and you'd be thinking about, people that you would talk to out in the field that lost their house, or they saw the aftermath of the shooting, or they everything that went along with it. And it was a lot to process. I mean, it was a hard time. And I've gotten better about it now, but I mean, there'd be times where you just like be sitting there and you just start to, well up a little bit thinking about it, because it was hard.
I mean, I don't know if you ever read, there was a comic strip called Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, I know that.
There's one that always has stuck with me ever since I read it when I was a kid. And in the comic, their house gets broken into, and the parents are just cleaning up the broken glass and having a conversation. And the mom says, this feels like the kind of thing that always seems to happen to someone else. And the dad says, yeah, but you got to remember that we are someone else to someone else.
Yeah.
That comic, I don't know what it is, but that hit me. Like I was like 12 years old when I read that, and that has stuck with me ever since. And I find myself quoting that. I quoted it a lot in 2019.
Yeah.
Because like one of our master control guys, like his apartment got wiped out in the tornadoes that night.
Yeah.
He was there with us working that night, and like he was on the phone with his mom, and
you'd have never guessed it either. I know who you're talking about. You'd never guessed it because he came into work the next several days, and you never talked about
every
it.
Day. Every day he's like that. That guy, I love that guy so much. The shoot, like with the shooting, I was freaking out because kind of like how you were talking about, like being away from it. Like I was hours away in the mountains of Pennsylvania.
Right.
And actually there were a lot of people who are from Ohio who were out there because it's a big like communal camping fest thing. And they were having like posts in the Facebook group, like if anybody wants to get together and have a talk, and there were people who packed up and went home. And part of me almost did. Because a friend of mine is a bartender at Ned's, and she had been working that night.
Oh, wow.
And she's fine. Girl I was seeing at the time had been down there at the bar that night, had left like 10 minutes before the shooting happened. And then my brother and his girlfriend, at the time, were living above Blind Bob's, which is across the street.
Sure.
And so it was one of those where everyone's blowing up my phone. I call my mom, I call my brother, call everyone, make sure everyone's okay. It was one of those, it was like, if I had caught a whiff, I think that anything had happened, I probably would have packed up and come, because it also kind of just tainted the rest of my trip, which is kind of like, I just want to be at home with everyone. And
it was a hard few days because I think sometimes we forget they had the El Paso shooting the night before. So you had the Walmart shooting, and one of our former coworkers, Eric Elkin, was the main anchor down there, and so he was dealing with that. And I remember sending him a message that night saying, hey, we're thinking about you and whatever else. And then sure enough, several hours later, it happens in Dayton. And so, it was, it's tough to really put it into words. And,
well, kind of touching on what you were talking about earlier about like, it obviously like it's nothing compared to the people who were directly affected by it. But when your job is to kind of almost metaphorically put yourself in that position, you have to kind of, in order to understand what was going on and get the information, you kind of are putting yourself mentally in their shoes.
Yeah.
And you do find yourself. That happened to me my last year of college. I was part of we had a school news team, and we had like built a set and all that. And so I was one of the ones who was reporting, and we had a sexual assault happen on campus. And so they had me like covering it. And so I was like reading police reports and stuff like that. And this is the kind of stuff that you're like, this happens on Law and Order. Like this doesn't happen to actual people. And like reading the police report, I think I just broke down crying in my dorm. I was like, this doesn't happen to this. You cannot tell me that something this happens to actual people. Like,
well, and if you're not in this business of being a first responder or a lawyer or, a journalist, you don't know. I mean, these police reports are horrific. And they're written very, and I'm not blaming them for writing this way, but they're very to the point. They're very factual. This happened, this happened, this happened. And then when you read, court documents and stuff like that, I mean, there's some really terrible things that you have
because it has to be on the record.
Absolutely,
and it's not it's a factual thing, and it
sticks with you. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, there's a lot of things that we've had to cover over the years, over the last, going on 17 years now that I've never talked about with my wife, because it's just, I don't want to burden her with that kind of stuff. I mean, after everything that happened in 2019, we had a counselor come in, and we all got in the conference room and just let loose. And it took less than 30 seconds before we were all bawling and talking about it. Really? I mean, that's how much dealing with that stuff impacts us, because we're all people, and I think that that's okay. I feel like, I always felt like if I don't get emotionally impacted by that kind of stuff, then I should not be in television, and I should not be in journalism. Because if you can't empathize with the kind of things that you're covering, I don't think that you should be involved. you want to separate yourself, but I feel like you also have to have, in my opinion, the connection of understanding, or at least trying to understand how someone else is feeling, or as you mentioned, putting yourself in their shoes. But yeah, that was tough. And then, we get done with 2019 and we thought, boy, see you later, 2019. 2020 is going to be so much better. And it did. It started off so well. The Flyers were going to go to the Final Four.
I went to one of the best concerts of my life. It was the first night of the tour. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, tour was canceled. And I was kind of like...
Pandemic, yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. And that was hard too.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad my kids are so young now that they're not going to remember this stuff very well. But,
yeah.
I always tell other people, though, it's only a blip. It's 1 year and, maybe more, and then we'll get past it. What's unfortunate is all the people that have had to, not be able to see loved ones, or not be able to, deal with that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I haven't seen my grandparents since 2019.
Yeah, no, it's me too. No, yeah. my last living grandmother. Yeah, I haven't seen her since then. I think everyone at some point in the last year has probably bent the rules a little bit. Sure.
For the sake of not losing your freaking mind. I've thrown. God, when I was house hunting, every couple of times, Mom and I would go and just say, let's just go eat somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
We went to Submarine House. God bless them. They've got like shower curtains between all the tables, which I love.
Right.
Other places are spaced out. It's like, you feel weird. It's like, I know we're not supposed to be coming out doing this, but it's like, if I don't go out and do something, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still haven't gone to a bar yet, but
no. I don't go to bars anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean, where it's like just something social and do something. I mean, there's going to be a lot of mental trauma I think people are going to have to work through over the next, especially if, the kid's not in school and all that other stuff. It'll be interesting 10 years from now to look back at how that impact of what the last year has been like has affected people,
Imagine being a healthcare worker during all this stuff.
Oh yeah. You talk about trauma. I mean,
and there's at least a couple who were like, it was like their first freaking day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you ever watched Scrubs, but it's like, it's JD's very first day, and he walks in getting pulled into a guy who's like coding on the table. And I'm like, imagine that being your first day. And like, you come in your first day at work and it's like, there's a national pandemic going on. We're locking down the entire state. People
Good luck. You're put on 8 layers of protective equipment. Yeah. Good luck.
Oh man.
Bless their hearts, man. Jeez.
All right, let's lighten the mood a little bit. We've gotten a little serious. So this next segment, guys, is sponsored by a company called Poddex.
All right.
Poddex is an awesome. I'm going to pull up the script because every time I try to do it off script, I screw it up.
As someone who has to read scripts on a daily basis, I know what you mean.
Oh my God. I used to be so good at this. God, when I originally wanted to work in radio. That was the goal.
You got the voice for it.
I miss it so much. Well, unfortunately, that industry took a tank. So the radio industry did not evolve with the times like everybody else did. They tried to fight the internet, and that didn't end well. Now we have Spotify. All right, so this next segment is powered by Poddex. Poddex are unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience, you can get more engagement. You're going to want to check out poddex.com. And if you use the code TBL10, that's TBL10, you will get 10% off your entire first order at checkout. There's also a mobile app which you can use for $7.99 a month, which has got access to all kinds of bonus digital decks as well as discounts in the store. There's a monthly giveaway, which I won last month. We'll do an unboxing of that at some point here. And I won a brand new microphone arm. I mean, it's not like you're winning stickers, guys. Like they're giving away like $400 microphones. Like, wow. So check it out. There's all kinds of digital classes, such as like vocal warm-up, social media tips, things like that, as well as an equipment guide if you're looking for a low, middle, or high budget boost to your studio. So poddex.com and use the code TBL10 to get 10% off your order at checkout. Now today, I think with Adam, we're going to pull so you mentioned you were a sports guy.
I'm up for whatever.
You're up for whatever?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna pull this is a hoops. You a basketball guy? Okay, so we'll skip that one. All right, let's see here.
I could fudge it along.
Yeah. All right, so let's do the this is this or that volume 1. We'll do this or that volume 1 deck.
All right.
So would you rather take a cat nap or a power nap?
What's the difference?
Cat nap. A cat nap is like that.
Is there
like,
a time thing?
It's like that 20-minute, like you lay down, you close your eyes a little bit, you get a move. Whereas the power nap is like you lay down for like an hour and kind of get that recharge going.
Oh man. So I'm a huge napper, and I always have been. It's kind of sad. I'm sure my wife gets upset with me because I take these naps all the time. I honestly would love power naps more than cat naps. Yeah, I think I need that extra time to just relax. It almost feels like you're kind of like meditating, where you're just like, perfect.
I need 20 minutes just to fall asleep. You know?
Well, right. Most of the time you do. Yeah. Yeah.
Some people can say some people hit their pillow. My last girlfriend, she hit the pillow out.
Done. My wife's the same way.
I don't get it.
She'll fall asleep while we're watching a TV show. Yeah.
But as I've been learning in the past couple of weeks, I have a lot of sleep issues. Let's see. Are you more? And this probably will apply to what drew to your wife. Nice eyes or a nice smile?
I think smile.
Yeah.
I think you can tell a lot by a person by their smile, just how, warm and friendly it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And some people aren't, everybody has a different smile, of course, but
yeah. And there's Bill Belichick who doesn't smile at all.
No, don't hit a baseball in his backyard. No.
Doritos or Cheetos?
Doritos. Yeah.
Which flavor?
Regular.
Yeah, it's the regular,
just
the nacho
OG.
cheese. Yeah. That's all you need. My mother hates Doritos.
Cool Ranch just destroys my breath for like 10 days.
Cool Ranch doesn't taste like any. I don't know what flavor that's supposed to be. That ain't ranch.
No.
And it ain't cool.
No.
I remember when I was in middle school, you'd have Nacho Day at lunch, and it was Cool Ranch Doritos with like a teaspoon of like the fake beef on it. I'm kind of like, that's fine. That's fine. I'll take the peanut butter and jelly. Thank you. I'm good.
I'll starve today. Thanks. Yeah, I'm good.
Let's see. Would you rather go to like the Mediterranean or the Caribbean?
Mediterranean for sure.
Yeah.
Mediterranean. Yeah. In fact, my wife and I had always talked about like that would be like our dream vacation would be going to the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
We went to the Caribbean for our honeymoon, and it was fun. I mean, it's fun. Both of them are great, but I think the history of the Mediterranean would be far more interesting.
I love Greek foods.
Well, that too. I mean, there's so much.
That's
there.
where a lot of mine is like, where do I want to travel? I don't know. What do I like to eat?
I mean, that's a big factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much better food.
Oh God, yeah. There's no good Greek places in Dayton. I need Dayton. I need Dayton's food selection to diversify a little bit. I love Dayton, but it can't all be pizza and Skyline. Love pizza, love Skyline. I need more. Let's see here. That one's weird. Some of these I'm like, okay. Some of these I'm kind of like, no. Would you start rumors or spread gossip?
Is there a neither?
They're not exactly gradual. I'm a gossipy little bitch. So
are you really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Master control is always a lot of like, so Mike, what you got, girl?
Let me tell you about that.
It's the old lady sitting with their hair in the big balloon dryers like in the 60s, and when I come in the room. Let's see. Okay. Procrastinate or persist?
Oh, see, I'm totally a procrastinator. I feel like everybody in TV is because of the deadline aspect. Like if you give me a hard deadline, I'll get it done. It's just, it might be right up to the deadline.
You know what I mean? At that, you want it by 6:30. It will be 6:30 when you receive it.
Yes. If it's 6:29, I'm doing something well, right? No, that's a common thing among people in TV. Like they're very much procrastinators.
Well, especially because I can hear the directors and the producers in the control room on their headsets going like, I swear to God, if I don't get that package in the next 30 seconds.
Why is Adam still in the newsroom? Get out to the studio. No, that's totally fine.
You should hear it on the weekends.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Oh, weekends are fun.
Yeah.
Hot Pockets or pizza rolls?
Hot Pockets.
Yeah.
That was how I survived. When I started in TV, I ate a lot of Hot Pockets, which was fine because your metabolism's better when you're 22. So, right. So
yeah. I'm living proof of what happens when you eat way too many Hot Pockets early in your career, and now suddenly they're still there.
They never flush.
They never go away.
Oh man.
East Coast or West Coast?
I think West. Honestly, I loved Oregon. Oregon was one of the most beautiful states. Now, granted, I don't have a ton of travel experience. Like I haven't been to every state in the country, whatever. But I mean, having the mountains and the ocean and the hiking and all that stuff, it's just a different vibe out west. It's much slower. Like Midwest is much more like busy, go, go, go. And East Coast is just like, get out of my way. Like West Coast is very much like, yeah, cool. All right.
I love to travel, but I've never left the East Coast.
Really?
The furthest west I've gone is Chicago, and I love Chicago. Chicago is one of my favorite cities. But yeah, it's the furthest west I've ever gone.
I knew I was out west. So in Minnesota, for instance, like you always hear Minnesota nice, which is true. People in Minnesota are very nice, but they don't want to talk to you more than the pleasantry. So if you start talking to them about something other than just like, oh, hey, what's up? Like they think it's weird and try to get away from the conversation. I knew I got to the West Coast because I remember running into this couple when I was with my wife, and you know, they're like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then they just started talking our ears off for like 10 minutes. We never met them before. And I'm like, okay, well, this must be the West Coast then. You know, and we're like these Minnesota kids who were like,
I said hi.
Yeah, right.
It's supposed to be the end of it.
That's it. Done. Yeah, right.
Curly fries or crinkle cut fries?
Crinkle.
Crinkle?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. They hold the flavor better, I guess. Something.
I feel like they do, especially when they have that nice burnt edge to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curly fries, I feel like, are so easy to screw up.
They are, and I feel like when you get inside of them, they're kind of like they're not as cooked. I don't know what it is. Like Arby's, God bless them, like their curly fries, I'm just not a fan.
Yeah.
I hope that's not too controversial of a take, but
no, you're not Jon Stewart. So it's you ever go back and watch old Jon Stewart episodes, like it was like famous for this like ongoing fake feud he had with Arby's.
Oh, really?
He would just trash Arby's on the show. Oh. And then he would joke like Arby's was the sponsor or something like that. Like with the curly fries, I love Rally's fries.
Okay, I've never eaten at Rally's.
Really?
No.
I would say I'd never eaten there till I moved here.
Oh, okay.
I grew up by one, but my mom doesn't like them, so we never went. So when I started working at the station, and there was the one that I would drive by every night, I was like, you know what? I'm hungry. I'm just gonna stop again. I was like, oh, these are, holy crap! I've gone this long without the. Oh, geez, okay. But it's the fries. Like the burgers are great, but the fries are like it's like that perfect cross between like a curly fry and a regular French fry because it's got that seasoning on it, but they're cooked.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to try that.
Their fries are good. Yeah, I'm a French fry guy. I love French fries.
This is fun. This pod thing is fun. What is it called? Pod
decks. Yeah.
What else do they do? They do this or that, or what else is
so there's a whole bunch. So I'll pull up another one. So we've got this deck here is.
You say there's a superhero one?
There's a superhero deck. Let's pull that one up. We'll see what this one's like.
That's another thing I love is like I just finished WandaVision.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, no spoilers. No spoilers here, I promise.
No, but I love it when Batman shows up.
Well, that was pretty good. Yeah. But man, that was well written. There were some lines in that show where I'm like, man, this is a Marvel show.
Oh man. I love so at this point it's been a few weeks. There's an episode where they're spoofing early 2000s like
Malcolm in the Middle and stuff?
Well, not even that one, like The Office, Modern Family, the fake reality show style shows. Uh-huh. The way that she was spoofing Claire from Modern Family throughout the whole episode, I was crying, laughing every time she was on. That show was, which is weird because when I heard they were doing that show, because I'm such a huge fan, I was like,
I didn't get it.
I was not interested at all.
I'm like, what the heck is this? I don't understand.
And now I'm like, but I also look back and I'm like, I also want them to do a season of just Wanda and Vision in the 50s. Like that show, I just want that show. That was great. It
was fantastic.
Now, but that was the one I was like the least interested in seeing, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I watched. It was so good.
Oh, it was excellent. I mean, I guess you should expect it from the Marvel universe, but my goodness,
you think I'd stop doubting them by now? The day I remember the day they announced, I was in college, and we're doing this movie called Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's about Chris Pratt and an alien princess and a talking tree and a talking raccoon, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And it's still one of my favorite movies to this day.
It's excellent.
I need to, but every once in a while they have some idea and I'm like, it's not going to work.
Well, then God, Endgame was like emotional terrorism. I felt like I was crying the whole entire movie.
I think half of us at Master Control went to go see that together, and we were all just like,
you're just like,
I remember when, because we all went to go see Infinity War, and after it was over, we all just kind of sat in our seats for hours. We didn't move, but I was just kind of like, I need a minute. And then Endgame was the same way. It was just like, I need a sec.
Well, and after seeing WandaVision, don't you have an even greater appreciation for Infinity War and Endgame? Mm-hmm. Just like the emotional pull of all of that.
I did not expect to feel. Because the way they pitched it was the whole, like, it was them spoofing the TV shows. And I thought that's all it was going to be.
Yeah, and I didn't realize the actual intricacies of the plot at all. No.
Shame on me for that.
Told you I was a nerd, guys.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a dumb question. If you could date a superhero, who would it be? It's Wonder Woman. We all know. It's fine. We all know. All right, who has the best origin story?
The best origin story. Oh man. I'm
into some obscure stuff. So
I like that. No, I like that. I kind of like Captain America's, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because since he started so scrawny and wanted to really do it and get, wanted to serve the country and wanted to be that hero and that sort of thing, and he was given that opportunity and he really went after it. I'm sure there's other ones I could think of too, but.
Well, there's the scene in the movie where he throws the dummy grenade and everybody bails and he jumps on it, which I think is probably I think that's probably the most telling scene of that whole movie. Other than that, it ends with a great Tommy Lee Jones joke, but he's still skinny.
Right.
I love Tommy Lee Jones.
He's so brilliant.
But that I think that moment where he jumps on the grenade is so telling of where his character's character lies.
Yeah, his ethos, like you could just, I think that's what really spoke to me. I mean, I obviously love Iron Man, and there's so many characters that I really enjoy, but
right.
But I just love that unwavering loyalty and just wanting to save everybody. I love that.
What this is a good one.
Okay. What
regular profession would your favorite superhero be good at?
What regular profession?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. You got one off the top of your head?
Well, who's your favorite superhero?
I don't know if I have a favorite. Gosh, that's a good question.
Well, let's go with Captain America.
Okay, sure. We'll stick it to the
What's something you could totally see Steve Rogers just
killing it at?
Yeah.
I could see him being like an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I mean, I know that's not much of a profession, but
you could do it. See, me personally, I bet he would run like the best diner in town.
The best diner?
I bet that dude is a whiz on the grill.
Really?
Just flipping burgers and.
Well, he's totally like the stereotypical,
Oh yeah, he's America. It's
America.
Favorite line in Endgame. That is America's ass. I don't know. See, my favorite character. See, mine is always, everyone always asks me who's my favorite superhero. I have to say, other than Batman, because I'm a massive Batman fan.
Sure.
I've got like 5 different Batman guys over there, and
oh yeah.
But my other favorites is this character named John Constantine, who's this like.
Oh, Constantine's phenomenal. That movie with Keanu. Do you like the movie?
So good.
Yeah, right. Underrated in my opinion.
When it came out, everybody crapped on it because he's not British and he's not blonde. But that movie is so good.
He was perfect for that. I mean, that is like that movie was made for Keanu Reeves' cadence and everything else.
And the guy who plays him on TV, Matt Ryan, he is to that character what Robert Downey Jr. has been to Tony Stark. What I love about that Constantine movie is that they based it on probably one of the best runs of that series, which is where the whole run is he gets lung cancer and basically BS's the devil into curing his cancer by accident. I'm kind of like, that is awesome,
right? Yeah, no, it was phenomenal.
I love that movie. Yeah, but yeah, he's always been one of my favorite characters just because he's just such a different kind of character, and
well, he's kind of an anti-hero in some ways because he's just such he's a cluster of a guy.
He's not a nice guy. He's a jerk. But what's cool about him is the way he's written. So like the way he's been written is unlike other comic book characters. Like he ages in real time.
Yeah,
like they establish what his age is in the comics, and they've aged him in real time, and he's one of those characters. Like it's a series that's dealt with things like addiction, suicide, sexuality, things like that. It's because it was part of that line of DC Comics where they were kind of going more the adult, edgier stuff. But he's the kind of guy, he's this chain smoking, smart aleck British guy, but it's like.
See, I didn't know he was British.
Yeah, their character's originally British, but like you think about he's like if Sherlock Holmes and Harry Potter had a baby,
like a bastard child.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like I always wonder, like I bet he would just like I don't know. I bet he would like just kill it, like working like as an orderly, like at an old folks home, and just like being straight with the older people who were there, you know, not BSing them, but also like making them laugh and because he's not, you know, jerking them around or anything like that, and just he's probably like slipping them good stuff under the table, like here's a couple cookies, you know, like don't tell anybody, that kind of thing.
It's really amazing when you can get, especially in a movie like that, where you can get a, well, and you obviously have the comic as a background, but where you can get a character that you can really latch onto, and just they develop them so well. Mm-hmm. One of my all-time favorite, I mean, I know this is a sidebar, but one of my all-time favorites is Ellen Ripley from Aliens.
That's great.
I mean, not the original. I mean, the original Alien was good, but in my opinion, like Aliens is the pedestal that all other action movies, sci-fi try to reach. Because they managed to get you to care about every single one of those Marines and her just tough.
Game over, man. Game over.
Bill Paxton, man. Rest in peace. God, he was so good.
I know. I love that his hometown did. They lit up the like the city lights like in a pattern the night that he died, so that it spelled a BP. Oh. For planes that were flying for when they were flying his body back home.
Oh yeah.
So that when it flew over, they could see that from the airplane.
God, he was so good. He had so many memorable. His character in True Lies still makes me laugh. That used car salesman in True Lies. Oh man, a lot of inappropriate stuff. Can't say the lines here, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
I love it. It's Aliens is. I just rewatched like all of the Alien movies, even the bad ones.
There were some bad ones. There's unfortunately several bad ones. Yeah,
there was like 2, maybe 3 good ones, and Alien 3 is bad. Alien Resurrection is okay. Ron Perlman, whatever, it's fine.
Well, and unfortunately, like those Prometheus ones that came out in the last couple of years, like they tried, and you know the second Prometheus one actually had a little bit of that Aliens vibe, like the James Cameron type of vibe. But God, it was so dark and just like,
Honestly, like I've seen Prometheus twice. I couldn't tell you a thing that happens. It's
convoluted.
Well, it's just so long and drawn out, and to the point where I zone out and I just stop paying attention.
Yeah,
and I'm like, let me know when somebody dies. It's fine. It's fine.
Just let me know.
Also, I was with Jurassic Park. I was a huge Jurassic Park fan. Then you get to Jurassic Park 3, and it's like, well, after the first 10 minutes, nobody dies.
I didn't like the new Jurassic Parks.
The Jurassic Worlds with Chris Pratt. Really, you didn't like him at all?
I didn't like him, like in comparison to like, because I feel, you know, what's going to happen. You know, people are going to be overindulged. They're going to have these big parks there. Like the original one was so good with the music and the messaging and the themes. Like it was just so great. And I know that that's very Spielberg type, but
it is. Well, a couple years ago, so 2019. Travis, the engineer at work, he and I hang out a lot, and they were doing a 25th anniversary screening at the theater over by the.
God, it has been more than 25 years.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm old. Yeah. Oh God. Or I guess it would have been 2018 because it was 93 when that came out. But I hate that I can just pull it off the top of my head.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But we went and saw it like on the big screen, and I was amazed at how good it still looked.
Right.
Like
the special effects and all of that.
Well, and they didn't use a lot back then. It was like the T-Rex was like half animatronic, half CGI, and there was like 2 scenes where it looked a little bit. For the most part, I was like, this still looks like just as good as I remember it on the big screen, and it was so crazy.
And I think it helped too that they had great actors that they got involved in it, so it added to the realism of the whole situation, despite how ridiculous the whole idea is. Just having those good actors like Sam Neill and Lauri Dern and obviously Jeff Goldblum.
You can still get. I love that Target with these Funko Pop figures has one. The Target exclusive, and it's Jeff Goldblum, shirt open, laying on his side.
Oh, really? They do not, do
yes,
they?
Yes, they do. They keep selling out of them. I keep trying to get one for my mom because my mom has like the biggest crush on Jeff Goldblum.
What was that? Was that The Fly? Was that from The Fly?
No, it was from Jurassic Park. It's after he gets his leg mangled, and he's the rest.
Oh, it is in
movie.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he looked good in The Fly. That was back when he was in shape and not. I love Jeff Goldblum, but he is weird now. He's always been weird, but like he's got this show on Disney Plus called The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, I've not seen that.
If you've got to watch it because it's like the first episode is just him just getting super into the sneaker industry. Also the guys who like the sneaker trade shows and will like sell their collections for like $28,000, and then he goes like to the Adidas headquarters. But what's funny is like how super interested in everything he is. He thinks everything is awesome, but also like there'll be like little transition graphics on the screen, and he'll be describing them as they happen. He'll be like, and now I think we're going to transition to the next scene. There should be like some squiggly lines over here and some waves over here, and that's what's happening on screen. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I got to check that out. Now that WandaVision's done, I got to have a new show.
I know. Well, in about a week and a half, they got Falcon and Winter Soldier dropping.
Oh, is that when it's going to drop?
Same day as Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League on HBO Max.
I have
no interest?
No. Well, I just feel like other than Wonder Woman, they kind of screwed up that whole thing. Like it was too moody and too dark, and it's just.
I have so many mixed feelings on it. Like I'm the biggest defender of all those, but I'm also just a big Zack Snyder fan. So.
Well, and I agree. I think he's brilliant. I think the problem is that after the Christopher Nolan Batmans, you can't. Yeah. Like good luck trying to top that. Like Robert Pattinson might do a good job on that prequel, but. I don't know, man. It does, but it's so hard, like because Nolan nailed it, especially The Dark Knight.
So. Oh, it's so good movie. I still will never forget that's the movie that changed the Oscars. I mean, because it wasn't nominated for Best Picture, and everybody was like,
should have been.
And I guess the reason it wasn't is because at the time they only allowed 5 Best Picture nominees.
Oh, is that? Oh, that's right.
And voting wise, it placed at number 6. So the next year, they expanded how many could be nominated.
That was the year they did that.
That was the year they did because of The Dark Knight, because everybody was kind of like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
It was so good.
Yeah, I mean, Heath Ledger won the Oscar for that. I still think, even though I think he deserved it, I don't think he would have won if he hadn't passed away.
I think that helped, yeah. It did. But God, he was good in that. Yeah. I didn't even recognize him. You remember when he got cast and we're all like, you can't top Jack Nicholson. Come on.
Yeah.
You're getting the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You to go be exactly the Joker?
What I was
come
like,
on.
All right, sure.
Right.
Cool. And then I remember that first shot, and I was just kind of like, oh.
All right.
You have my attention. All right. But it's been, I mean, people had the same reaction when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman. Everyone was like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then like next thing you know, the guy gains like 100 pounds of muscle, and
you're like,
okay. Cool.
The thing that's crazy about Christian Bale as Batman is that I felt like he got usurped in every movie by somebody else. Like as good of an actor as he is, it never felt like he was the star in any of those movies that he
No.
Made. It felt like the other actors.
Those movies never felt like Batman's movies. Like it was like Dark Knight was Joker's movie. Dark Knight Returns was Bane's movie.
And even like Batman Begins was, I mean, I guess it was, but it wasn't.
But Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
You can't put Liam Neeson in a movie and not expect him to outact everybody in the movie.
What was his name? Ra's al Ghul?
Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul, yeah.
Like I was watching the Flash TV show for a while, and like you cast Tom Cavanaugh and Jesse L. Martin as supporting characters.
Yeah.
And they're gonna act circles around all these freaking 25-year-olds who are in this TV show. So but no, you're right. Yeah, it always felt like I like Christian Bale's Batman, but like he wasn't
like the singular and maybe that's a credit to the movie making itself. Maybe that's how they wanted to do it, but I feel like the Batman should be the the central point, but he never really was. It didn't seem like it anyway.
Right. That's why I'm really curious to see what they do with this Robert Pattinson one, because I like everybody involved in it. It's a, like most people when they heard Robert Pattinson, of course everybody was like, the Twilight guy, and I'm like, he's done so many things since Twilight.
He did Harry Potter. My daughter watched Goblet of Fire the other day, and I was like, oh my God, look at Robert Pattinson. He looks like a baby.
Yeah, and then he dies and comes back as a sparkly vampire the next year.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
But like he's been killing it like in a lot of indie films and stuff like in the British circuit. And he did this movie with Willem Dafoe 2 years ago called
Lighthouse.
Oh my, that movie's bizarre, but really good. So I'm optimistic, and it's just, but you can have the best cast in the world, the movie can still suck.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, hopefully they release movies again in the theaters here sometime.
Because that one was supposed to come out this year, and now it's not coming out till next year. So.
Oh wow.
Well, they kept having to cancel shooting because people kept getting COVID, including Robert Pattinson.
Just terrible.
I know. Speaking of which superhero has the best hideout?
The Batman. I mean, is there even a question there?
Yeah, no.
Do any of them even I mean, Tony Stark's got a pretty good hideout. Don't get me wrong, but the thing blew up, like the Batman with the cave, and nobody knows where it is.
Superman's got the Fortress of Solitude. I'm like, cool. He's got a really big igloo.
He's got a bunch of phallic things. Yeah, good for you. You know,
crystals and ice. Cool. I bet it gets really cold there.
Yeah, it looks really comfortable. I didn't see any couches. I didn't see any like televisions or anything to like hang out, or a fridge, right? Yeah.
I mean, I guess Wonder Woman's got a invisible jet. Cool. How does she know where she parks it?
She has an invisible jet?
Yeah.
Does that come out in this new movie?
I can't say.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Okay,
I need to see it. I don't have HBO Max.
It's fine.
It's fine.
The HBO Max is great. The movie, it's fine.
Okay.
It's a movie.
It's tough to top that first one.
Yeah. First one was really good. Okay, okay, this is the perfect one to end on with you.
All right.
Who is your dream superhero to interview?
Ooh. Dream superhero to interview. Man, that's a good question. I think the person who would be the most interesting would be Tony Stark.
Okay.
Just because he's so smart and just so, I think it would just be entertaining to interview, because he'd probably tell me I'm a moron the entire time. You're like, how much beneath me. Just as far as like tell me about your adventures that you've had. Boy, let me see. I think it'd be pretty cool to interview like Captain Marvel, just because none of us really know. I mean, outside of reading the comics, like the kind of adventures she's been on, like going around to all the different planets and stuff like that. So I think that would be kind of interesting to hear about all the different, races of people and that sort of thing.
She's like a space cop kind of thing.
Basically.
So you got to kind of wonder, like what is she seeing? Same with like Green Lanterns. Like he's a space beat cop. It's like, what kind of crap have you had to?
Yeah. What have you dealt with? What have you seen? Like, I love that line in Endgame where they're like, well, where were you? She's like, you might not realize this, but there's a million other planets with issues that are going on too. Like
that don't have you guys.
That don't have Avengers.
That was a great, I really did like that line.
That was perfect.
Because that was a question where it was like, where's she been this whole time? It's like, busy.
Well, yeah, it's a big universe.
Because that would happen in all the, like in Thor 2 after the Avengers, and he's taken on this thing in England. Everyone's like, how come Iron Man's not getting involved? It's like, I don't know. He's got his own stuff going on.
Yeah, like they're all busy with other stuff. I do wonder that sometimes, like, gosh, why don't they team up on these other adventures? But it's like, well, they got, other stuff going on, I guess.
And then we got Thor Ragnarok, which was...
That was a trip. Speaking of Jeff Goldblum.
I loved him in that movie so much.
He was perfectly cast.
I want a whole movie of just him. He was so great.
Who would you interview, though?
I would... God, see, Captain Marvel's. I would probably interview either Green Lantern for the same reason, because that interstellar space cop thing.
Yeah.
Or honestly, I'd want to interview Ra's al Ghul, because he's lived 1,000 years.
Has he really? See, I didn't realize that.
That's his whole thing in the comics, is that like in the movie they had it where like Ra's al Ghul was like a title that got passed on. In the comics, it's that he found this thing called the Lazarus Pit, and that he would basically bathe in it, and it would just put him back into his peak physical form. And every time he did it, he'd lose some of his humanity.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of what made him kind of go nuts. But that's his whole thing, is that he's allegedly lived for like 2,000 years.
Wow.
Like he talks about like being around, like like at the time of like Sodom and Gomorrah, and being there, when during Western expansion and things like that.
Oh, see, that would have been fascinating. They would have brought that into the Batman movie.
I think the reason they didn't, I guess Chris Nolan was trying to keep everything like grounded in reality, which was cool. But at the same time, I like the idea of the immortal dude, though. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, because they didn't have any. You're right. In those Batman movies, they never had any like super powered.
Like even Bane's whole thing was he was just jacked and on painkillers.
Yeah.
which some damn good painkillers.
Shout out Tom Hardy. My goodness.
Oh, I love Tom Hardy so much.
Tough guy.
He's a guy who almost didn't have a career because of Star Trek.
Oh, I forgot he was in
because he was in that, and he was counting on that to be like his big, huge kickoff. And then that movie tanked at the box office. And I guess he thought that, well, same with Paul Bettany playing Vision.
Oh yeah.
After Iron Man 3, his agent basically told him like they're not going to use Jarvis anymore, and his agent basically told him like his career was over. He didn't have any other offers, and he was like at home, like trying to figure out what he's gonna do, and then you got a call back. They're kind of like, hey, do you want to be Vision in there? And he was like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Jennifer, is it okay if I do that? Yes, it is.
You know, speaking of Jennifer, if you saw the first Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
So the lady computer voice in his helmet is Jennifer Connelly.
Shut up.
Which I'm like, that is fantastic that they got Paul Bettany's wife to be Lady Jarvis.
Oh, that's
that is
phenomenal.
Fantastic.
That is really good.
I love stuff like that. Adam, it has been an absolute blast getting to sit and talk with you. And,
thanks.
And hang out and get to know you on a more personal and professional level. Going forward for you with everything with broadcasting and being a Dayton 24/7 now, what are you hoping to see happen? Like what's I like to ask everybody kind of like what's that end game goal up on the pedestal for you?
For me?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you'd asked me 10 years ago, it would be Minneapolis because that's where my family lives. But you know, life changes, especially when you have kids and everything else. I mean, we love it here. I mean, it would take a lot to leave. It would take, you know, I can't even imagine right now. I mean, I really do love living here. You know, we have a great life. We're very lucky. And you know, I think the end game is to be determined. I mean, we're going to stay here as long as we can. You never say forever, obviously, because the TV business is fickle and things change in a hurry. But I think we'd like to stay here as long as possible.
I'd like it if you did, because
it's a non-answer, but it's an answer.
No, that's a great answer to have. It's better than what I usually get. Usually I get a lot of like, I don't know, I kind of want to like get a Netflix special.
I mean, I would take a Netflix special. I'm not talented enough for that, but no, it's you know, I try to stay in my lane. I'm not.
No, yeah. Like I always wonder like do you watch guys like Trevor Noah and John Oliver and think like I could do that?
Oh no. I mean, I'm not funny. Like you know, I could get, you know, maybe a few jokes here and there, but I stay in my lane. I know I'm not like super funny. Like I feel like I can, you know, have conversations and that sort of thing, but I would need some of the best writers probably around to get me to be funny.
we tried doing that. We tried doing like a late night talk show thing, and like just doing like one episode a month, like writing enough jokes for just one monthly episode was
brutal. I'm sure.
And there was 10 comedians working together, and I'm like, and you got Kimmel doing this nightly.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
And sometimes they miss obviously with the jokes, but still it's a lot. It's hard. Yeah. You have to admire them. Mm-hmm. So no, I just stick to copy, stick to
copy.
News of the day.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully you stick around for quite a bit because we love having you here. And, you know, Dayton 24, you definitely become, I mean, one of those recognizable faces for Dayton 24/7.
Oh, well, thank you.
Since it's been here. And, you know, I remember when you first came on. I remember when you first started here.
About half a decade ago.
Sure. And, but yeah, I mean, you know, it was, sometimes you see new anchors come in, especially because you were coming from out of market.
Yeah.
And so there's always that it's not like when Megan moved from days to nights. Like, well, we knew Megan, we you know, so it was like, who the hell's this guy?
Yeah, he's got a huge head.
That dude's shoulders are broad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you took to it right away, and I mean, like the on-air chemistry you've had both with Deb and now with Megan has been fantastic. And,
good.
And no, I mean, I remember everybody was immediately impressed when you first came on, and it's great that you're still with us, and hopefully you stay with us for a while longer.
Well, that's incredibly kind of you to say.
And thank you for coming on and hanging out at my house and being on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
It's fun. It's fun to be interviewed. I'm always usually the one doing the interviewing, so it's actually really fun.
It's weird when you're on the other side of it, isn't it?
It is. It is. I need to appreciate that fact more.
It's
like a lot more.
Next time you're talking to somebody, you can be kind of like, oh man, I should get pod decks. I should get pod decks for when I'm interviewing the mayor.
I'd be like, I was on a podcast recently. I know what it means. I know what it feels like. It's very scary. I get it. I feel you.
So if people felt so inclined, is there an online presence they can follow you around at?
Sure. I mean, just look for me, Adam, last name Aaro. It's a hard thing because people call me Aaron all the time, and it's like, I get it. My last name, if you had an N to it, it says Aaron, right?
Every time I tried to type that we were having you on the show, I kept accidentally putting an N at the end. And I was like, I don't think I have 5 years. Come on.
No, I mean, it happens. So yeah, Adam Aaro. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is more family stuff. It's not really news related, but Twitter definitely is, and so is Facebook. So
awesome. And then you are the co-anchor Monday through Friday, 6, 6:30, 10, and 11.
Yep, on ABC and Fox here in Dayton.
Man, busy.
It's something.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, thank you so much for those of you who were watching. And if you are listening to this on the replay, as always, we will do one of these every month. We do them live to the patrons through Patreon on the first Monday of the month, and then we will drop them for everybody on the last Friday of the month. And of course, this was sponsored and brought to you by Poddex. Make sure you go to poddex.com. Use code TBL10 to get 10% off your purchase at checkout. And until next time, guys, we will talk to everybody later. As always, live well, rock on, take care, and bye-bye.